This is a video edition of Critical Thoughts. And of course, just like everything else, everything else I'm doing in this one. It's just all unedited, unfiltered. It's 100% just raw footage. So first and foremost, let me just thank you all for joining me today on the video edition of Critical Thoughts. By now, the podcast has officially came out on this previous Monday. Every podcast from here on out will come out on Monday morning at 7 a.m. for Patreon members exclusively. If you're not a Patreon member, head over to patreon.com/the6hour and sign up, and you get early access by about 4 to 5 days. 4 to 5. So you'll be able to get that a little bit earlier than everybody else. The podcasts go live on Friday for everybody else, so you can get that at iTunes, at Spotify, at Google Podcasts, at Alexa, and many more. So, welcome, and let's dive on in. And of course, my name is Logan, but you can call me Sig. These podcasts and video casts are designed primarily for entertainment purposes, but at the same time, they're going to have an educational element, opinionated elements, and at sometimes just downright serious or humorous element. And you'll be able to kind of tell from the tone I'm taking to the topic at hand. Like today's topic is parenting, so it is a very opinionated, but yet somewhat serious matter as well. And that's just simply because it comes from a lot of people's perspective from talking to them, both family, friends, colleagues, and even old clients or customers of mine from back in the day, or even current ones. And of course, any subject that is like super serious, and I'm going to dive into like political aspects or scientific aspects, I will definitely have all my resources cited. They'll be put at the end of the video, at the end of the podcast. They'll be typed in the description somewhere. You'll be able to go and fact check all this. Because honestly, I'm not stupid. I know there are tons of people out there who just love and thrive on the fact that they can go out and fact check somebody. So feel free in those situations. I welcome it. I'm not scared of it. Not scared of it. Alright, anyways, now since these subjects are legitimately all over the place, from the plethora of topics ranging from simplistic, humorous, to serious matters at hand, that means the length of each podcast and even video cast is going to kind of be all over the place. On the podcast, I'm going to try to keep right around the 30 minutes to 1 hour mark, because it's all listening, it's all audio, so it's a lot easier. These video podcasts, I'm going to try to keep under 30 minutes. I can't guarantee anything because it all really depends upon the subject at hand. I would also like to take this time to let you know who's watching, or even if you listen to the previous to the podcast of this, that if you yourself have an idea, you want to be a guest, or just have something you want to go over with me, let me know. It's all fully possible. Even if you want to have a debate or bring on other people to have a debate, I'm fine with that, as long as we remember one crucial thing, and that's that we both keep an open mind, or all of us keep an open mind to all sides of the discussion, regardless of our beliefs, moral values, as this is really the only way we can truly learn. We're not going to put each other down or bash each other. That's just not a proper way to learn at all. It's defeating the whole purpose. But with that aside, now without further ado, let's get started. The first video podcast of Critical Thoughts. Remember, the topic is parenting. And I'm going to try somewhere down here, maybe. Not this one. I'm going to try to have the section show up as well. So, something to look for. Let's get on to it. Alright, everybody. Got that. The harsh reality is this first subject. So let's be really, really clear up front. Parenting is by far one of the most difficult adventures in one of our lives. It's not just a journey that's meant for everyone. It's not. It truly does take the want and desire to be a good parent. So let's be real. There's no such thing as a perfect parent, and this isn't designed for everybody. Not so. Keep that in mind. The truth that much of society everywhere tends to follow one fact or one tradition. Let's put it that way. It's a tradition. The majority of the old generation that's still around were brought up on very traditional methods of not only parenting, but raising and expectations. These expectations in life always seem to hit the same points. Once you're an adult, you need to find a significant other, marry them, have children, and one works nonstop while the other one raises the kids at home. This method, this tradition, whatever you want to call it, has changed drastically through the last few decades alone. More and more people are waiting and willing to have children at a later time in life. Hell, some are even not wanting to have children at all. But yet the older family members, like our parents, our aunts, uncles, grandparents, the ones that are right around the 60-year-old or older, it doesn't even have to necessarily be them. Like I said, it's all from my perspective of talking to other people as well as myself. But they all tend to ask that one of these two questions. They tend to always ask these, and several people I've talked to have said it made them feel quite uncomfortable to the point where they'd rather not answer the question or they dodge the question entirely. But those two questions tend to be, you either ask, when are you going to have children? Or, when are you going to settle down, also known as marry, someone, and then start a family? Now, honestly, this isn't completely rude to ask. It's not really anybody's business, though, or concern. It's only the person that's being asked to. It's their business, it's their concern. But we ask each other this even as well. Colleagues, friends, family, however you want to put it, we all ask each other this. I've had people ask me this for years. When I first got out of high school and joined the military, it was alright, now you're in the military. Are you going to try to find someone, settle down, and have a family? It wasn't the right time for me. It's not the right time for everybody. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to wait and have children, or simply don't have children at all. Because honestly, not everyone should have children, nor does everyone deserve to have children. And I know. This is a very touchy subject, technically, telling people what they do or do not deserve in life. But the harsh reality is that not everyone is truly equipped to handle raising children. Not mentally, not physically, not emotionally. Their own lives are in such a disarray that they can barely take care of themselves, and yet they think a child will fix this issue, fix them, and help turn their life around. This just isn't a real reason, nor is it the case to have a child and bring them into your clusterfuck of the world. It's just not. Now, I've known many people personally that have had a drug addiction, were supposedly in gangs. I can't prove that one. I'm just going off their words. I didn't know them when they were younger. I know people who are heavy drinkers, also known as alcoholics, and their own lives are just a disaster, and yet they have children anyways, but don't change their ways. And why they have children, it really depends on how you ask them or what type of day they're having. I've had the balls or the audacity, as some would say, to ask family members or even friends why, when their own life is just a fuck up, and it always comes down to, I thought my child would help me kick the habit, or I thought my child would help change me, but this isn't the case. Very seldomly is this the case. It's reality. However, these types of lifestyles tend to lead to neglect, abuse, and raising children in such a toxic environment, making the children's life that much harder and puts them in such a weird place and position, both mentally, physically, emotionally. And these children have no choice. They don't know any better because their own support structure, their own protectors, the parents are simply just shitty people or have shitty behaviors. So they don't know any better. These kids that we have so badly, or that we want so badly, and even those kids nowadays that we're saying they're just kind of shitty kids, it's a reflection of the parents. Keep that in mind. Kids are very much a reflection of the parents. Now, I know, I can already hear some people being really upset with that, with what I just said. I know, but it's true. If we look deep down and we look at how our parents raised us, how their parents raised us, if there's any of us that came from a dysfunctional family or a place of abuse, a place of neglect, we will see the same trends going on and on and on. It's very, very, very hard to break a cycle. But there's hundred reports that prove this on a weekly matter. There is. From a parent just abusing the living shit out of their child so badly that the child ends up dying at the hands of the parents. And that is by far the most sickening shit I read or hear on the news, and it just absolutely pisses me off. There's reports of parents being so strung out on drugs or so damn drunk that children are having to either take care of the parents, or the child is even turning to a life of, we'll say, petty crime. In some areas of the world, or the nation even, it's more than just petty crime. Some actually join gangs because they're looking for that sense of family. They're looking for that sense of community or brotherhood or belonging somewhere. Well, this is a very harsh reality. Every story, every subject has another side. Every subject, every story has two sides. It's like a coin. It really is. As cheesy and cliche as it may sound, yin, yang, good, bad, evil, good, whatever. It all goes hand in hand. And while the harsh reality of things in life just seems to be dire because that's how it's portrayed, that's not always the case. Parenting can be one of the most rewarding things in life. It really can. I love being a parent to my children. I love having my children around. Hell, I'm technically a freelancer, stay at home, work from home, wherever you want to call it. I work out of my office here that you guys see me in. But parenting can be one of the most rewarding things in life. It can. I mean, you brought a child into this world either by birth or adoption. Now you're responsible for raising this child to be a good person that contributes to society rather than becoming a leech and just sucking off of society like a parasite. You help this child not only realize their potential, but you even help them reach it from a very young age. We are grooming the future. We are grooming the people who are going to be up and coming here in the next decade or two or even 3. These are going to be the people who have a major impact in society and life. So you need to make sure that we as parents and adults are raising them to be good, decent, honest people and not parasites and just trashy, shitty people. But then years go by and you see this child become an adult. Even though the journey has been and will be hard mentally, physically, emotionally, and even at times spiritually, honestly, it can be. It can just challenge you on so many levels. It's rough, and to hide that fact or to downplay that fact is an injustice to anybody who's thinking about having a child, who's thinking about adoption, for whatever means. It can be hard. It's reality. However, let's move on. Let's say, though, that you had a child, or you adopted one. Congratulations, first and foremost. The journey, the real journey, is now beginning for you. Having a child is going to be hard. It's not an easy task. It's nothing like they talk about in the books or the videos or the lectures or teachings or whatever. Parenting cannot be defined and taught by a book or a lesson or a lecture or a video. It's just not that easy. That's every child's different, every person is different, every adult is different, no one's the same. Now there are easy moments and there are stressful moments too. Like I was saying, two sides of a coin. The first year seems to be the easier, at least in my opinion, of having my two children. The first year so far has always been the easiest. Because simply the baby just poops, eats, pees, naps, rinse, repeat, all over. They sleep a lot, they cry a lot. I mean, realistically, you would cry too after being evicted from your home of comfort, nurturing, and not having to deal with society. You would cry too. I mean, it makes some of us adults cry on a regular basis with how stupid certain people are. But this is a critical time for many people as parents because myself, my wife, most parents become very, very self-conscious about the choices that they are making, and the biggest choice at first for first-hand parents is always how do you go about feeding your child. You always have the breastfeeding option, which is very natural, been around forever, and you have the formula feeding. This is by far the stressful decision. I've seen many parents have to decide on this, and sadly not all parents get that option. Some get told you can only formula feed. Take for examples. Most women in statistics want or to try to breastfeed their baby. But it's technically a two-way situation. The mother needs to produce enough milk and the baby needs to be able to latch onto the nipple and drink said milk. But some mothers don't produce enough to fully sustain the hunger of the baby, or the baby's just having a difficult time latching on and staying latched. It happens. This alone causes a lot of doubts within the parents. They tend to feel down and like they're just terrible parents for not being able to provide a basic thing like breastfeeding. And there's no reason to be around the bush. It's a terrible feeling and does nothing good mentally for either parents. And I know women are the ones who are breastfeeding, but from a husband standpoint, a father standpoint, a significant other standpoint, essentially the one that's not breastfeeding, it's difficult to watch that, to watch your significant other, to watch your wife, to just feel so shitty, and there's nothing you can really do other than suggest formula, and you have to be careful about that, especially going in if your wife or significant other was so headstrong on breastfeeding. It's hard. But now, let's say the female loses the option to breastfeed, and now they have to go to formula. There's nothing wrong with formula at all. There's not. It's made major leaps and bounds over the last couple decades alone. It is a perfect substance to be feeding the babies. But like I said, some choose to only use formula from the get-go and just don't want to breastfeed. For whatever reasons they have personally, it's for not wanting to breastfeed. I know I've asked some women this before, and I've been told several different things. Some as, I think this is shallow, this is my opinion, some as shallow as a woman saying they don't want to ruin their breasts because breastfeeding means you're filling up the breast with milk and then you're losing all the milk from either pumping or from the baby eating. Therefore, it stretches the skin, shrinks it, shrink, and that just wear and tears on the breast. It does. So they rather not have to go through that. It's also a kind of painful situation at times. And I know I'm a guy. I'm not trying to understand breastfeed, or I don't understand breastfeeding nearly as much as like my wife does. I just know from what my wife has said, what my wife has informed me of, what other women have informed me of, and that's just simply the facts that I am presented with. Regardless of which option you choose or have decided for you, the most important thing we have to remember during this time is there's nothing wrong with either breastfeeding or formula. The crucial thing is that parents themselves do not let them go down into this dark, dark pit of despair and, just sink that low. And it's hard to tell you that because it's going to happen. It's just going to happen, and it's very sad, and it's really hard to watch it happen. But the crucial thing is that the baby's taken care of. That's honestly the most important thing when having a child, is making sure the child lives healthy. So whether you're breastfeeding or pumping, whether you're formula and bottling, it doesn't matter. As long as the baby gets food and substance, you're doing the best you can. That doesn't make you a bad mom, regardless of which choice you make. But on the flip side, breastfeeding has become apparently I don't want to say apparently, breastfeeding has become an issue that seems to have plagued society with the perception of whether or not it should be done or allowed in public. And if so, should the parent be allowed to, quote, flaunt it, or should they have to be concealed? This notion that breastfeeding in public is a horrendous act to perform is just downright fucking stupid on all levels. This is a person, the mom, is literally making sure the baby is kept alive. This is a fucking stupid ass notion to believe that, one, anyone can tell you how to feed your baby. Fuck you. Anybody can tell you where or when to feed your baby. No, a baby's hungry. It's not like an adult or even a small child where you can say, hey, just wait 5-10 more minutes. Hey, wait an hour till we get home. Fuck you, that's not how this works. If a baby's hungry, they're hungry. They don't understand. They're a fucking baby. This would be equivalent of someone being offended by the fact that a diabetic is shooting themselves with insulin in public because it's keeping them alive. Or even a doctor performing CPR or a life-saving technique on a horrible accident that took place. This is stupid. This is idiotic, and honestly, it comes across very selfish for anyone to shame a woman for breastfeeding in public. And those people who shame or feel the need to voice their opinion about whether or not a woman should be able to supply substance and life-giving food to a baby, you honestly, all you people who believe that, can go fuck off, because that's stupid and just downright asinine of you to think that way. Breastfeeding is by far one of the most natural things ever. It's been around since literally the dawn of man. Hell, it's been around before then. Animals been doing it. For the history of Earth, there's been some type of breastfeeding or nurturing giving by everything. It's very hard on a woman, physically and mentally at times anyways, to breastfeed. So they don't need any added stress or anxiety or guilt from dickheads telling them whether or not they can and cannot breastfeed in public. This is honestly a reason why a lot of parents, mostly moms, will stay home while they're breastfeeding their kid, or they'll only go out while their kid is sleeping and the other parent can take in, because they don't want to possibly be put in a situation where there's not a breastfeeding pod in some cities. There's not a location, a lactation center. It's just you're out in public and you have to feed the baby. So they rather just stay at home and not have to possibly deal with pieces of shit telling them they shouldn't be breastfeeding. But regardless, I honestly could go on about this subject and this issue because it's just pure absurdity, and there's nothing in this world that would convince me otherwise. This is 100% should be allowed in public, and if you can't see that, if there's anybody that you know that can't see that, then there is something really, really just fucking wrong with you. But enough. My heart rate's getting up because this subject pisses me off. Let's move on. I'm already well into it, so we'll see how well this goes. But regardless, move on from that. After the birthing of the child in the first year, the early years after are just the beginning moments, unfortunately, of stress filled. This is the time where you're trying to teach the child to do things like use a toilet during potty training, try different foods like fruits and veggies, or just trying to simply listen and obey to what you're telling them, because they don't. This is just the beginning where parents start feeling very terrible as a parent, or even sometimes a failure, because the child's not listening, they're not eating, they're not necessarily as far along the developmental curve, or they just simply don't seem to be able to, go potty in the toilet. I can honestly say that my wife and I both have felt like this at one time or another, and probably will again down the road when our kids get just older and older and they become honestly little jerks and super defiant. As much as I would love to sit here and tell you there's no reason to feel bad or there's no reason to feel that way, it sadly can't happen because it's our own nature, it's within our DNA to stress over this. But that's not a bad thing always. It's a good thing to stress over it because that means we actually care and are passionate about raising our children right. But as I mentioned before, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. And anyone who says otherwise is just honestly full of shit. This is a time in a child's life when they are making big changes and trying to become more and more independent. So they simply want to play, touch, lick, poke, prod, anything they can. Even if it might hurt them, they don't know the difference. This is how they learn. We learn from trial by error, trial by fire, whatever. I'm not saying go out there and let your kid touch a hot stove or stick something in a socket. But understand that we do the same thing as adults. We learn by trial by error. It's human nature. It's just what we do. Kids need to be able to learn by that trial by error. It's going to be stressful watching them, telling them, no, it's hot, no, it's hot. I mean, hell, I've watched my own daughter pick up a hot coffee mug of mine when I told her repeatedly, look, there's steam, that means it's hot, don't touch it, it's hot, it's going to be hot, you're going to burn yourself. But sure shit enough, she picks up, she drops my cup all over the place, spilling my coffee. Now I'm upset because I just told her no, she didn't listen. But now I have to put my frustration aside and take care of my kid because she's now hurt and she has to know that we are there for them. So this is a very stressful moment. It's stressful as hell. There's tons of moments of just low points like that or even lower from small things, the child not behaving or the tone you're using sets them off. But there's also times where you often start thinking about, well, maybe I should start implementing some type of consequence. They're not listening. Should I spank my child? Should I put them in a timeout? Should I not spank my child? It could go on and on. It's a rough time, and there's lots of opinions on that. You raise your kid the best you can. Because there are tons of wonderful moments up ahead. There are. And they outweigh all the bad, stupid moments. Like the first time your child crawls, walks, talks, reads, or even does funny little things like trying something sour like a lemon, trying something tart, spicy, or so many other moments in life. And they will all just make you forget about the bad things. But when we think about it and we think deep down, children are simply like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Sometimes they are honestly the biggest shits, but most of the time they're funny, goofy, surprising, just downright sweet people. The thing is really to take away and to constantly remind yourself that children don't understand the emotions or feelings they are having. That's where we step in and we educate them and let them know that these feelings and emotions are normal and everybody has them and it's okay to feel them and help them deal with them, those emotions. Because honestly, there's a lot of fucking adults who don't know how to handle their emotions or their feelings and they become just crazy or super depressed or do stupid crazy things and act out very violently and they don't know how to control their own emotions. Now, am I blaming the parents in that case? No, but something happened in the past that the kid themselves are now adults unable to cope with that emotion. But we cannot expect our children who have no experience whatsoever to control and understand what they are feeling or what emotions are coming over them. This is literally just the beginning. The coming years are just as stressful, if not more stressful. It depends on how you perceive it and who you ask. Because once the child hits those preteen years, 10 and older, it's honestly like the weather here in the Midwest. It's just super unpredictable. The child is just like us at one point. They're all going through major internal, mentally, physically, and emotional changes, and they're evolving into adults. That's what's happening. But when that happens, that means something that we all probably hated. Some didn't care, but at one point or another, we all hated was puberty was happening. All of the adults know it way too well. This is a subject many parents simply still don't want to have with their children. I'm not looking towards it. Hell, not at all. I'm not looking towards the discussion I had to have with my daughter when she goes through those changes. Because I am nowhere near an expert on women. Not at all. I hope my wife can handle it, but at the same time, I know I need to be able to handle it. So I'm doing all the research possible, and I know there's a bunch of dads out there in the same predicament that I am, and they're all just counting down those years until it comes, until they have to go through that just situation, we'll try to call it that. So it becomes very, very difficult, again, and stressful for parents, and not just because of the puberty thing, but because this is honestly where a lot of individuality starts happening, and they may start deceiving us. They may start testing their independence by simply lashing out, sneaking out, lying, betraying trust. And I understand not all kids will go through this, but the mass majority will. I actually know 2 adults, and I have tons of people. Like I said, I'm military brat. I've met 2 people who lived a very sheltered life, so they never truly lashed out. They never snuck around, lied, or betrayed their parents' trust. They had no reason to. But when they became an adult, they were almost just beaten across the head with reality when the real world hit them and they were starting to struggle and all the ugly news was starting to come out. It happens. But during these preteens and teenage years, this is also where a lot of peer pressure becomes very, very relevant and is just shoved down their throats, either by media or by their own friends. This is time where peer pressure is very hard on them, and they need to understand not to cave into it and to stand their ground. Because simply put, no means no, regardless of the situation, regardless of if it's a male telling a female, telling another male, or a female telling another female, or telling a guy. No means no, no matter who's involved. Adults need to remember that shit too. But kids, they're harsh, mean, and they seem to care way too much about their reputation, not only within school and social media and online, but also with their friends. So let's just take a backseat and take an example real quick. Your kid's entering high school and they've never had a girlfriend or boyfriend, they've never been kissed or never had sex, but one of their classmates now has, and your kid is being bullied by them because of that fact, the fact that your kid has not. This puts your kid in a very tough spot, and they don't feel like they can necessarily go to you for guidance or help in the matter. They're more likely to get in a terrible position, which can be anywhere from them getting somebody pregnant, becoming pregnant, or hurting themselves or others. This is where parents need to start that line of communication and keep it open and not wait for children to come to us about it. We instead have to take an active interest in our children's lives without overdoing it. Don't become a helicopter parent. Let your kid have some secrets to themselves. It's life. You had secrets from your parents. I had secrets from my parents. Everybody does. And we still do. Now, we could go on and look into the statistics of each situation, from how the child is raised in a one-parent home, dual-parent home, triple, quadruple, whatever. But it simply comes down to whether or not the parents are emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually available for the kids. That's what it comes down to. If we are not there for the kids, and they don't feel that, or don't understand that they can come to us, they never will, and we'll lose that line of communication. And honestly, wouldn't you rather have your kids come to you? Or would you rather them go listen to Tweedledee and Tweedledum, their friends who know absolutely nothing, or learn something off the internet? 9 times out of 10, I bet you you'll say they'd rather come to you. But speaking of the internet, let's talk about this whole children with technology. All right, it's going to wrap this up, I promise. But let's talk about it. This is yet another issue that seems to split generations in half. The older generation doesn't think that children should have access to technology like tablets and computers and video games and even phones. And then the younger generation, like my generation and even younger now, who are adults, firmly believe almost the exact opposite. But the millennials, the 80s or 90s baby to 95, 80 to 1995 kids, it's myself and several others. We're split in that area where we believe, some of us believe kids shouldn't, and some believe they absolutely should. I am a firm believer that technology for children is a must. Now, I'm not saying let the technology babysit your child. No, don't do that. Don't be like, here's the fucking tablet, piss off. No. I'm saying that technology has much to offer, not only us, but children. We are officially at the point where technology is a crucial aspect to just living. It can help better teach people who may not do well in classroom settings, just shy, or don't want to be called upon help. Maybe the kids struggle with taking tests because of their anxiety. I did. These children today will literally grow up with nothing but technology access, while those of us who are millennials, like I said, we're the last cutoffs. Millennials were the last ones who truly had a time in their life where there was no real technology advantages like we have today, and then we also grew up with it. We got to see it boom. But it's not the point. The big thing is, why are we letting so many people shame us or other parents for letting their kids watch a tablet or play games and learn on them? Simply put, that years ago we were taught, I'm not saying brainwashed, let's not go down that road, but we were taught because we were kids that we shouldn't have, our kids have so much access to technology. And that's just not the case anymore. There's so much scientific data out there that proves that having the kid be on the tablet and learning at a very young age to read, to write, to know their letters and their numbers, all that helps them improve the developmental process. It's another useful tool we can have. Now, there's also the side effect that says, and this goes for everybody, that we shouldn't have our devices on us when we go to sleep because we're going to look at them while we're trying to wind down, and it messes with our sleep rhythm. You got to go look into that yourself. It's a whole big topic. But what I'm trying to say essentially is letting a kid have a tablet is not going to be detrimental to them. It's going to help them. They can learn a new language, even learn how to code. They can watch TV on it for time beings while maybe you are trying to cook dinner, or you want to watch a TV on the road because you're traveling several hours. Letting a child play video games, ideally supervised, can help with hand-eye coordination, as well as defining what's good and bad in life. Because games put those in there for a reason, where we are trying to figure out, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Are we going to be a good person in the game or a bad person in the game? The learning aspect of technology, not just for adults but for children, is infinitely there. It's just, we have so many things at our fingertips now because of the access to technology. They can literally learn every aspect of their passion without having to try and find a specialist in it or try to find a certain class in their area. They can simply just go to places like YouTube. They can go online and learn how to code. There are tons of just systems out there for children to be able to learn, and adults. Now, with all this greatness, of course, there's an evil side. Keep in mind, two sides of a coin. I've said it a dozen times now. There's also a lot of evil that comes with technology. It's just the truth. There are tons of creepy, stupid people out there who will use technology for the worst things possible, from catfishing to trying to lure out kids because they're freaking pedophiles, viruses and scams, and so much more. This isn't going away anytime soon. There's nothing we can do other than just completely get rid of it, and that's not happening. But we need to educate not only ourselves, but we need to educate our children on this. That if somebody claims that they are somebody specifically, that you sit down with them and you explain, that's probably not true, or don't give away, the ASL. Some of the kids don't know that nowadays. Age, sex, location. Never let your kids give that information away to anybody online. Never let them tell them how old, what gender they are, or where they're located, because this is legitimately how pedophiles and kidnappers get the information, and it's just terrible. We just have to make them aware of this stuff. I'm not saying throw it all on them and destroy their childhood innocence. No, let them keep that for as long as possible, because that's just crucial. Let's not strip any innocence away. But this can't be done without active line of communication. It just can't. Your kids need to be able to come to you. You need to be able to go to your kids, and there needs to be an honest communication there. Now, you both are going to hide stuff from each other. That's just going to happen. It's how we're going to live. Just get over it. But, and I can't say this enough, we have to take that active interest in our children's life. Always keep open that line of communication. And the approach to the questions that they ask you may make you feel uncomfortable. You may not like having to answer them. But you're a parent now. You're having to make sure your kids are well educated. Yeah, you just have to make sure they're well educated, and you're well educated as well. Anyways, as you can see though, there's legitimately tons of reasons why someone may not deserve or should have children. This world that we are living in right now is honestly quite terrible for adults, and it's even more terrifying for children. So adults who are wanting their children, or who are wanting children, need to make sure that they can physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally put their child first, 100%, no matter what, even if it makes the parents uncomfortable. We, as adults, are the ones with the experience in this crazy shit world that we are in. We need to be able to raise and guide these children the best way possible. Sure, it's going to come with a lot of stress, anxiety, make you question yourself at times and the decisions of even having them. It'll make you just feel crazy. But I'm telling you, it's all worth it. Children can and will be little shits. That's just reality. Let's not sugarcoat it. They are fantastic though, because you get to see this bundle of joy that you created grow and evolve into an adult. You got to see them do silly little things like try a lemon for the first time and just see that reaction on their face. You got to see your child start walking and crawling and reading and talking. And this is like precious moments you're not going to get back anytime. But they're also a little annoying. Well, they are. It's happened. It's true. But so much more will always outweigh just how much of a little terror they can be at times. Regardless of which parenting technique you choose or you have or you want to pursue, whether you believe in spanking or don't, whether you're all for timeouts or not, or you simply are just taking this like most parents by the seat of your pants, just remember this. No such thing as a perfect parent. All parents feel terrible at times and feel like they have let themselves and their children down. And all will be stressed. But you are doing the best you can. And seriously, that's all you need to know and remember is you are doing the best you can. So if there's any parents or other adults saying they're perfect or their kids are perfect little angels or they don't struggle with parenting their children, they're full of shit. They are seriously lying to themselves and everybody else. They're just trying to cover up the flaws because they themselves don't know how to cope with it, and that's not on you, that's on them. So fuck them. They can go literally just fuck off. That's none of your business how they parent their kids. Just remember, you do the best you can for your kids and your family. That's all that matters. No such thing as perfection in parenting. Alright. I thank you for listening. I seriously do. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you have ideas for future content, let me know. Hit me up. You can also get more exclusive content, like even the behind the scene of how this video was made or how I came up with the ideas, or early access to both the video and the podcast if you head over to patreon.com/the6hour. Patreon is a platform where you can show support not only for the brand and myself, but it also allows me to be able to show support back to y'all and come up with fantastic ideas and giveaways and other content. All money is legitimately put back into this. But it's time for me to go. It's well over 45 minutes. I do apologize. But I do hope you enjoyed listening and watching. And I thank you for choosing this podcast, Critical Thoughts. It means a lot to me. Thank you, and as always, like I say during my streams and any other moments, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll catch you next time on the next episode of Critical Thoughts. Podcast out on Monday, video cast out on Friday. Guys and gals, I'm Sig, and that's all I have for you today. Have a great one. I'll see you next time.